So thanks for joining us again this week. Ricky B,
Yeah,
the
of course.
Rudy,
Thanks for inviting me back.
and Benjamin is back. It's perfect. It's good to have you back.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Not too bad. It's been a long couple of weeks actually. A lot of work.
I mean, time passes slowly when you're not on the show, right? That's a
Exactly.
known fact.
You look back and you think, man, when was the last time I was on Inside Security? I definitely want to go back on. So, what a happy thing to have happen here. Yeah, no, it's been good though.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, same here. I've been really busy with work actually. I've been trying to do some stuff at my on the spare time, but work has been taking up quite a lot of time. Yeah, I don't think the threat actors are taking time off. Doesn't seem like it.
No, they seem to not have the summer vacation that you Swedes do.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
really someone should talk to them about work-life balance and all that stuff because I sure would like some.
But we have actually seen when we've done incident responses with when we're well not with but when we're up against nation states, we can actually see that they do take time off.
Yep.
They just disappear and just there's no activity from them, and we're like, where are they? Are we just not seeing them? And then we end up finding out, yeah, there's a holiday in Russia or Chinese New Year or just something, and then they're back on the next like free Monday or something. So yeah.
There is no better smoking gun than publicly announced holidays that you can see literal actions taken from one day, and then, you know, after that break they come right on back. It's really quite fun, and you can also see them ramp it up right before the holiday gets in because people are trying to finish their work, get their access that they need and stuff like that, so that they can finish their stuff as soon as they come back from their holiday. It's quite fun.
Well, it's pretty much like how I do it before I go on some form of holiday vacation. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna finish these things because otherwise I'll have a bunch
Yep.
of things to do when I get back. I suppose it's
Uh,
just for them it might be just a normal day job for them for some
I mean,
nation states.
I mean, at some point it probably gets to it. If you're popping shells on a bunch of computers every day and you're throwing exploits, it's probably just another day. Here, I've got this ticket to go get access to this company. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna get it. Shoot, I got a vacation tomorrow. Let me finish this up here and close all this stuff out. No, it's exactly what we all do.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, guys. I assume I have this sort of this visualization in my head that ransomware groups are not like that. In my head, they work like 24/7 because they're in for the money basically. Like the faster they do stuff, the more cash they can grab. While nation states are like they're government employees. So
You know,
what do you
I
think?
kind of agree with that, but on the other hand, right? Like, do other criminals work 24/7? No. Is it just because you can make a ton of money doesn't necessarily mean you're still going to work 24/7. You're still there's still a supply and demand effect, and if you had to join one of these ransomware gangs, then while you could make a ton of money, you'd have to work 24/7. Maybe people aren't joining. It's uh, Honestly, I think it probably runs a lot like a business. It's pretty effective to run things like a business, have holidays, have time off, have benefits and stuff like that. Um, and if you look at some of the what PR stuff that gets put out by some of these ransomware groups, they absolutely have hired some marketing person for them, which I think is actually hilarious too. How can I be a PR spokesman for DarkSide?
Yeah, I wonder how they actually like. I want to see the job ad for that. It's not going to be on LinkedIn, I suppose.
You wouldn't think so. Maybe it could be on Indeed. I'll have to go look for ransomware operator if that pops up anything.
Yeah, like qualifications. You have to write help underscore decrypt or text file. That's how
Yes,
it's in
there
the
you go. That's all you
portfolio.
need. Yeah. Please help translate my ransomware request into English or one of the many other languages so that I can get my ransomware. That's almost it would be well, when you talk about like cartels and stuff like that from an organized crime standpoint, they have accountants, they have HR people. It's probably very similar for some of these large gangs.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they're not. I mean, at least the bigger ones, they have to work like that, I suppose, because
Oh yeah.
they're. I mean, they're sort of their what do you say? Their organization has to be quite big.
Yeah, I mean, once you reach a certain size of an organization from a revenue and a people standpoint, you need managers essentially, and then people start demanding, hey, I would like some time off, even if you're doing some crime. It's people have vacations and other stuff. I think it'd be very interesting to see kind of inside workings.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So speaking of sort of inside workings, I actually created a Discord server for inside security.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we had some great discussions the past week or so. Um, I was gonna upgrade my Wi-Fi stuff at home, and I initially had an idea what to buy, and then I asked in the Discord, and I got some really good feedback, and I ended up buying something else. So yeah, I'm going full ubiquity, so which is quite good. So thanks to
That's
the
awesome.
Discord server.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
there you
doesn't sound
go.
like you've joined it, man.
I have not. I haven't seen the post. You'll have to link it in the chat, and I'll join it.
Actually,
It'll be good.
let me.
As long as I get like a special rank that says, contributor.
You can get a lower rank than the others. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's even better. Exactly. As long as it somehow says that I've been on the show, and I
True.
get less permissions that way.
Yeah, I'll make sure to have a rank for people who's been on the show. I posted the Discord link in the chat, so if anyone is interested, please go and join the Discord. That's yeah, verified guest.
Verified guest. Yes.
That's actually really good. Verified guest. So I think that ransomware is still a hot topic, and it's really interesting to keep talking about, because I doubt we'll ever sort of finish talking about ransomware and stuff. So last time you were on, we also had Pry on, and we spoke a lot about more in terms of like, should you pay the ransom, or should it be illegal to pay the ransom and stuff. And a verified guest is an other word for authenticated attacker.
Exactly. There you go. I have now been given access into the Discord server. I'm sorry, Michael. It's going to be mine soon.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I'm fine with that. So I figure we're gonna. Creambo is also here. That's all good to see. So I figure we might start off with sort of talking a bit about how ransomware groups or ransomware actors actually gain access to environments. Because you would sort of, people might assume that the ransomware, like your average ransomware group, does everything on their own. Like they do the initial access and they write their own ransomware, and then they deploy that, and then they broker with the customer or client or victim, whatever you want to call it, and then they pay it and then they launder it and stuff. It's not really how it works, right?
No. So one of the most interesting parts about the cybercrime world is the fact that you don't have borders. You don't have a lot of like delineation and things like that, and your access is not like a key, and it's not like hey, I know this person or this person can get access to somewhere. A lot of times it's your access is you've gotten access into the system via an exploit, or maybe there's some stolen VPN credentials or whatever. And then, like you were saying, the ransomware people aren't doing that. They're buying access from other people who sell access. They're access brokers. And there's a ton of different ways that these access brokers get access, everything from phishing to VPN credentials to paying people for their VPN credentials under the table. It's one of the things that has actually been popping up is they're like offering to pay someone, an employee of a company, hey, we're going to pay you if you give us your credentials to your VPN. We'll give you $100,000, right? And or 10,000, or however much they make. And then they have access to the system, and they don't even have to do any of the work. They can just pay people, and they can make a ton of money off of it. But it's that's kind of how ransomware operates entirely too. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same group developing the ransomware that's deploying it. There's tons of ransomware as a service being sold out there. I believe DarkSide is one of those groups that sells the ransomware as a service. So it's very much a marketplace of, well, I just need to put these pieces together, and then I'm going to make money off the ransom.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's for if you deploy your ransomware on a pretty big company, and you can get millions, or like even we've seen way higher something than that. I mean, if you pay someone $10,000 for an initial access, that's nothing. That's completely worth it.
It doesn't matter at that point. Then you've made so much money off of it, and it's just that much easier because you don't even have to do the hard part, which is gaining that initial access, right? So it makes sense from a financial standpoint, but it's one of those things where you start having to really actually worry about insider threats. It's in a lot of companies, you click on a phishing email, type in your credentials, they're going to say, okay, you shouldn't have done that, even though it caused a breach. You can't really blame the user. But, how do you determine that versus someone just stole their credentials from whatever? It could be a weak password. It could be that this person was malicious and they wanted to take some money. and do that. So it adds another layer to these investigations that I think is going to become pretty important, going forward.
Yeah, I think I mean, I've never really been a part of making that decision, but to decide if the action of actually giving out or losing your credentials, if that's intentional or not, that's got to be hard to decide, even in an investigation, I suppose.
I have never been asked to say, hey, this person ever give up their credentials willingly. And I've done a lot of internal investigations, right? And I've done forensics investigations, and that's never been a question that's been asked. And I'm not even sure how I'd go about doing that, because, it's just assumed that people are not trying to give access to the company, which I think maybe is a little bit naive at this point. It's, we worry about people trying to break into the office or steal like office equipment. Let's say someone's got some bad debts, they're gonna, and all they have to do is give someone their password and their username. Why not? It's the exact same thing, but I don't know that there's a great way to prevent that, because the other flip side of this is you don't know their credentials. They could be using, first name, last name, 1, 2, 3, and they could just get popped in a dictionary attack, and you'd be none the wiser either way. How would you know if they've actually gotten money from ransomware actors and deployed it onto your environment?
Yeah, maybe if they sort of they've Googled for how to sell credentials on dark web.
It would have to be, and I know a lot of the credentials that are being sought after, like domain admin credentials, so the IT admins would be the ones generally going on. But I think preventing it, there's ways to do it. MFA is a big one, right? It's a lot harder to say, this person accidentally, the credentials or lost their password, than it is to say, well, this person accepted the MFA prompt or gave this person the code, if you can't prove SIM hacking or something like that. So there's ways to prevent it for sure. But I think as we continue forward, it's something that's going to have to be considered a little bit more, as the human element into cybersecurity.
Yeah, I think it's hard, and I think people. It should have been on the overrated, underrated, which it's not. So that's a spoiler. But insider threat, I think, is really underrated, because intentional or not, I mean, insider threat is a big deal.
I agree completely. Yeah, underrated, and a lot of times it isn't intentional. There is massive amounts of it. From a certain standpoint, it doesn't take a lot of work to cause damage to your company if you have a position there. But from an insider threat standpoint, how do I know that someone downloading a Trojan, for example, isn't doing that on purpose? It's very difficult, because you're looking into people's motivations and their actions. And you kind of have to assume that people are operating on their own, they're operating as good faith actors. And you can't always do that, unfortunately. Stuff with like data exfiltration, or should this person be accessing these files? That's easy. There's solutions out there for it. There's ways to detect that. And it's generally pretty easy to know if someone's accessing like economic, or financial filings that they probably shouldn't be doing. But it's another question if someone's downloading, a software and they get something installed with it, and maybe they're just mad at their boss and said, you know what, we're going to install some software and we're going to see what happens. It's, people do things that are maybe not logical, but they do it anyway because they want to get back at someone or something like that. Yeah. So I would agree, it's completely underrated.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen, so Ricky B has a question in chat. He says, what are some good steps to prevent inside attacks, or at least detect them faster?
EDRs are great for certain insider attacks. DLP, fantastic. Certain data solutions out there that detect who's accessing data that they shouldn't be accessing. There's stuff out there. There's security software for it. You've got everything from like Palantir, or I can't remember what the other one is. There's also a civilian version of Palantir that companies could leverage from an AI standpoint to try to detect if activity is normal or not. But it's kind of in the infancy stage still. Generally, what I see a lot of is I recommend having good, strong policies around things that could be insider attacks. Everything from should you be installing software, or should you be going out to these websites, or should you be doing this, or how you should access a certain type of data. All of that stuff can be used to kind of like tripwires to know if someone's trying to be an insider threat. But in the end, a lot of times it comes down to you get to an impact stage. which is unfortunate, but it really is what happens because it's people consider it a low risk, and it's not prioritized to say, hey, if we are going to look into our security budget, what should we really focus on? They're going to say things like phishing, they're going to say things like initial access prevention, that sort of stuff, EDRs, layering, all that stuff. But no one wants to be this guy and say, well, should we really worry about our employees? Because no one wants to say, our employees might not always have our best interest in mind.
Yeah, and that is the case. I don't want to say often, but at times that is the case. And I'm a big, being a SOC analyst, I'm a big proponent of EDRs. Like, I think EDRs are amazing and you should have them. But for insider threats, I think it doesn't do much. I mean, if you have an employee who intentionally uploads something to shared Dropbox, okay, an EDR is not going to help you at all doing that. So, or just it might help you with if you want to exfil something to like a USB or something, then that can be detected and actually trigger an alarm for. But yeah, EDRs are great. I don't think they're great for insider threats, honestly.
It's one of those things where I think they operate on they operate great to say, hey, if someone's downloading malicious software, that can be used for that. But you're right, if someone's trying to upload their files up to Dropbox, there's only a couple pieces of software out there from an enterprise level that could absolutely detect that, but you have to be willing to spend the money for it, and a lot of companies aren't willing to. It's a hard topic, and there's companies out there that don't have any security around USB drives, and I've had to do forensics on things, and in the past at my own company, where, hey, is this person actually using their USB drive for what they should be using it for? And in the end, there's only so much you can do from a computer perspective and a forensics perspective. I can't ascribe motivation to someone doing something on their computer. All I can see is this is what they did. So it gets really difficult when you talk about insider threats to discover what's an insider threat and what's someone who's just doing something not smart. And in the end, I don't know if there's any good way to do that unless knowing your people. But from a security perspective, as a security professional, I can't tell you that I'm going to be able to help you prevent insider threats without building an entire strategy around them. There's no one software that will say, hey, we'll stop your insider threats. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. I've encountered events, let's call it, with a user where you like, it's insane how they're actually trying to get malware on their system. Like, they download some software and full crack keygen, gets blocked by ADR. Downloads the same software from another sort of wares group, blocked. Another one blocked. Another one blocked. And then, like, the last one actually worked. It got installed, and then boom, Emotet on it. Like, whoop.
Yep.
Like,
But I guarantee you, if you talk to that person, they're saying, well, I'm just trying to get this to run. I'm not trying to do anything bad. And most of the time, they're not trying to do anything bad. They don't like to see that. We were, as unfortunately what happened is, I think you grew up in the same thing, but, my generation, we grew up as kids, and, we would install stuff, maybe not exactly great software, stuff that was malicious, but you kind of just got used to your antivirus saying, hey, this is bad, hey, this is bad, and it isn't bad, or you think it's not bad, so you're going to install it anyway. And people got accustomed to clicking next, and people got accustomed to saying, well, if the computer's not letting me do it, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just not letting me do it, so I have to go around it. I blame Windows Vista for half of that, but still.
Yeah, I grew up with a LimeWire and DC++, where just everything was just safe, no malware on it, nothing, just
of course. LimeWire was 100% secure. There is no issues with it.
Yeah, this song name.mp3.exe. Just run this, and it's gonna be awesome. Just do it.
.exes. That's what my video game installs were. Yeah, it's fine. There's no worries.
Yeah. So I mean, all of these can of course lead to a threat actor getting an initial access, and then a ransomware group will of course deploy ransomware. But is this really sort of the future? Would you say? I have my opinion on this, or like, do you think the way I say it, just for clarification, is you can either do as a ransomware group, you can either go full ransom, just ransomware customers, and that's what you do, or you can do data leak ransom, where you steal intellectual property or PII or something, and then you sort of hold that as a ransom against the company. Say, hey, we're going to release this, or sell it to a third party on an auction if you don't pay this ransom. Or you do both, which is a double ransom or double extortion. So that's sort of the three options I see it. What do you think is going to be
So
on the rise?
I have some strong opinions and hot takes on this one. I personally believe that the future is going to be data leak ransom. And the only reason for that is it's got such a low barrier to actually happen. To deploy ransomware effectively, you have to make sure your backups are gone. You have to make sure that you've got all the systems that are necessary. You have to make sure that you have not been detected during this time. You have to make sure that your software works. There's this technical hurdles that you have to jump over each one. And in the end, people are either going to pay it or they're not going to pay it, but you're taking weeks at a time to deploy ransomware. A lot of times it's not generally, one and done. Now, if I want to leak a bunch of stuff and say, hey, you're going to pay me, or someone else is going to pay me for this data, I can do that in a couple of days. I get domain admin, I discover through these servers, and I start touching data and stealing data. And it's a lot easier to hide data exfiltration. It's a lot easier to hide that sort of activity than it is deploying malicious EXEs with PowerShell or PSExec and then running it on servers. And then furthermore, DarkSide figured out the hard way, which is if you go too much from a ransomware perspective and you start touching things that people get really sensitive about, you're liable to no longer exist. Because
like oil?
Like maybe touching the United States oil supply was not the greatest of decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that from that barrier, right, if you start getting to a point where the U.S. takes a really hard stance, or countries start taking a really hard stance against people who are, shutting down access, and they see ransomware as this big threat, you're going to want to move to something where you're just stealing data, and no one's going to be like, well, they stole data, that's a massive security risk. From like a public standpoint, like the government's not going to be able to say, well, they stole Colonial Pipeline's data, so we have to go take them out. It's just, why did they let, you start looking at Colonial Pipeline, like, what happened? Why is this acceptable? What data do you have on there that wasn't secured? It's, it changes from, I'm worried about the company, I kind of feel bad about the company, to this company is, letting data get leaked that they should not have. And it's just a lot easier to ascribe blame, basically. Maybe not necessarily rightfully, but it's a lot easier to. So if I was a ransomware operator group, I would absolutely be going to blackmail companies and potentially selling financial data. There would be a massive market, I guarantee, if you started selling SEC filings and accounting stuff before the stock market knew about it. There is a lot of potential there for harm. There's a lot of potential there from an economic perspective, and really, companies, if they're worried about it, they're still going to pay it. But even if they're not worried, you have the ability to go sell that data to someone else who does want to see that data. And I also think one of the things that people forget about ransomware is a large part of why companies are worried about it is the reputational impact. No one likes to be said, hey, we got hacked. And what a lot of companies do for minor security incidents is they don't they don't make anything public. They don't let people know about it, because why would they? But with a data leak one, where you start parroting to high heaven, hey, we have this data, this is GDPR, or this is personal data, or it's credit cards, you start telling everyone about it, there's going to be the reputational impact, and companies are going to want to avoid that because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah. So, all right, let me be a devil's advocate here then.
Sure.
So, I would say the ransomware is still going to be a big thing, because it forces you to do something. If you're a retail, if you're into retail and everything is down, like all your income is down, like all stores are down, you can't process payments, you can't do anything. Like, you have to pay the ransom. There's no choice. You either pay the ransom or you're out of business. And then, while if the data leak is not paid, that might be a reputational harm, or you might get fined, but that fine might actually be lower than the ransom that they want from it. While if you ransom the computer, you can't do anything. Like, you have to pay it.
So I think that's a good call out. It does force companies to do that. But what I will say here is, if you ever looked at like an SEC 10K filing or for public companies, there's this thing called goodwill, and there's this stuff around basically reputation that companies essentially are able to amortize and say, this is, there's a value to this. And that reputational value is massive. Every time that I've done a security incident for an internal company, one of the concerns has always been, is this going to be a reputational impact? And the reason is because that can far exceed like ransom. Obviously, operations going down is awful, but for companies, it's not necessarily about the operations being down. It's the fact that no customer is going to trust them after their operations come back up. So, like for example, if you're an insurance agency, right, and you're trusting people with your information, you're saying, hey, we take care of your information. We're going to make sure that no one can get to it. We're going to protect that, and we're just going to help you out. If something bad happens, we'll pay you the money. It's going to be fine. And then all of a sudden you hear in the news, all of their files have been stolen. Personal data is being leaked online. Are you going to want to do business with that company anymore?
Honestly, I don't think people really bother by just switching because the people are lazy. They're like, yeah.
And you could that could be an argument. That could be made a very real argument, I think. However, from a conventional standpoint, there are certain things that when they hit the news, people talk about them. And if you work as an enterprise selling things to other enterprises, right, businesses pick up on that stuff. They don't want to be involved in a breach. I think the negatives towards actual ransomware, there's a lot of negatives to that I think people are going to want to move away from it as it gets more and more into the public conscious. Everyone knows about ransomware, just because it's just easier to legislate around. It's easier to say, hey, this is a massive threat to us. And I think in the end, what's going to happen is people are going to steal data. They're going to threaten to release it. They're going to sell it to other people. And companies are going to have a lot harder time trying to fight that, for one. And then two, they're going to have a lot harder time convincing people that, maybe we have to do something about it from a cybersecurity perspective, as a nation or internationally. It's a lot easier for me to say hospitals should never be ransomware than it is for me to say, we shouldn't allow, we should absolutely go after people who are releasing patient data. I mean, obviously both are incredibly immoral and wrong, but, it's one is people are scared about not being able to get healthcare, and the other is people are scared about their personal data being leaked.
Yeah, true. Ricky B says, maybe the amount of new customers decreases over time because of bad reputation. Yeah, I think that might be a factor to weigh in. But I'm trying to remember who posted this on Twitch. I think it might be Mikko Hyppinen from F-Secure, about the stock price, how the stock price sort of changes after a ransomware incident. And I might be wrong, but I as far as I can remember, it almost always went down initially after a ransomware was made public, and then in 50% of the cases they recovered or even increased in value over a specific time.
So one of the things I will say to that, someone who does mess around with the stock market, is the stock market doesn't necessarily is a perception thing. It's how much value is this company going to be in several months. The counter to that fact is that I can't remember the statistic, but it's a large number of companies that have a major security breach go out of business within 5 years. And I'd have to go find the statistic for you, but it's been floated around for years around saying, hey, this is a big deal. This is why you don't let security breaches happen, because it does cost companies business. And I think the best one I can point out to that is SolarWinds. Yeah. SolarWinds absolutely hit the news. And now anytime you say the word SolarWinds, everyone's like, oh, they're the company that got hacked, right?
And what do they do?
And they don't care what they do. They don't even know.
They've actually they rebranded, right?
I don't even know if they rebranded. I haven't even heard anything, because SolarWinds is...
Yeah.
Hold on, let's take a look here, because I'm really curious.
I think they rebranded and they're now called something else.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm right. Please correct me if I'm not.
I still see them as SolarWinds, but they are definitely trying to do some stuff here and there. They're definitely moving around it. I don't know. It's one of those things where they're kind of like Oracle and Java. They're ingrained in a lot of companies, but it's going to be really, if I was a salesperson at SolarWinds, it would be really, really difficult to let to people, or if I was an internal IT person. If I was an internal IT person going to my manager and said, "Hey, we should get SolarWinds," they'd say, "Really? We should get SolarWinds? Is there any other alternatives? They were hacked recently."
Yeah.
And it's just that sort of.
But it was the intern, right?
It was the intern, right? Yeah, they left a password out apparently.
Yeah.
According to SolarWinds, yeah, of course.
So I actually do agree with you about. I also think that we'll be moving more towards data leak ransom than actual ransomware. But it also was fun to sort of discuss around the topic, to just have a chat. But yeah, I think it's gonna, and I think it's because there's less impact on the customer. They can keep it quiet. They don't have to go public. They can just pay stuff on the table and it'll never become public, and it's easier for them to get money.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to get as much money as they do from ransomware per attack. Like these massive amounts. I'm not sure we're going to see that in form of data leak ransom, but it's going to be more, I think. More. When I say smaller sums, we're still in like multiple millions of dollars.
Yep. Yeah. And it's going to be a lot easier. It's going to be a lot easier to hide. It's going to be a lot easier to do. The barrier to entry is going to be a lot lower. If I was someone who was on that side, that's what I would be going towards, just because it'd be a lot easier for me to do. There's a lot less risk, and I don't have to spend months or weeks trying to deploy ransomware, and then they have, oh, by the way, we have backups of all our systems. It's actually really easy to fix this. And I don't get ransomware, and I've just spent 3 weeks of my time deploying ransomware into the servers, and no one cares.
Yeah, because if you're not the developer of your own ransomware, that means you're using ransomware as a service, and you're not the creator of that ransomware. And we've seen in incidents that threat actors gain access to a company, and then they try to deploy the ransomware, but they can't really get it to work. You can actually see them troubleshoot the ransomware, like in logs and stuff. You can just see them testing stuff and like doing debugs and everything, and just it doesn't run. So you don't have to do like that hassle sort of just gone if you don't do ransomware. So
there's an opportunity cost there that you've lost because you've spent that time, and it's the same thing for when they get caught in the middle of it. And I've seen companies catch ransomware before it's being deployed. I've seen them catch initial access, and they're moving around, they're going through the kill chain, and they get caught somewhere on the kill chain, and all of that time they've just spent is gone. It's worthless. They have received no money. Which is it's one of those things that, if I was someone, I want to do as little work as possible and still make as much money. I'm going to do as little work as possible and still make as much money. And I think you can do that with data exfiltration. Yeah,
I agree. So speaking about, more in terms of how should people or companies actually defend against this? So one of the things I want to talk about was, what's the sort of biggest mistakes that you've seen companies do?
So that's actually a fantastic question, and there's a lot of them. Not like companies are bad at security, but there's a lot of different mistakes. The biggest one that I think I could categorize, and this is kind of vague, is they focus too much on one area. And this kind of goes back to the whole concept of security, which is defense and depth and layers and all this stuff. But basically, what you see companies who are like, we're going to have our EDR, we're going to have all the logs for these hosts, we're going to do all the stuff around these host bases to ensure that nothing bad happens, and we've got strong security, which is great. You've got great detections on all your hosts and stuff like that. However, there's always ways to defeat a lot of these things. You have to have good people who know how to read the logs, they know how to respond to incidents, and if there's a mess up, you don't have anything to fall back on. So what will happen is people will have really strong perimeter security, right? They'll make sure they've got MFA, they've got all this stuff set up, they've got a good phishing organization, they've got all these security things set up around making sure people can't get initial access. And then someone gets initial access, and there's zero ways to detect lateral movement, zero way to detect recon, zero way to detect anything after they've done that initial access and they've set themselves up for persistence. And so you invest all this money into it, and then the question comes, well, why didn't our software, all the stuff that we've done, our security org, why didn't this stop it from happening? And basically you say is, you were right 99 out of 100 times, but they were right once, and you didn't have any fallback. You didn't have any plans. You had no way to deal with them after they got that initial access. Or if you did, it just wasn't enough, and they were able to get around it. So I think that's the biggest one that I see. Companies tunnel focus on things. They look at a vulnerability report that says, hey, these are all your vulnerabilities, and they fix those. They do the good security hygiene and all that stuff, but they forget the actual security part about security, which is you're not defending against software. You're not defending against entropy. These are actual people on the other side, and they want to do harm to you and your business, and they're going to be just as creative as you are.
Yeah. So should you assume breach? Should you assume that the threat actors are inside?
I hate the word assume breach because it's got a bad connotation. It's kind of like zero trust now. It's got connotations around it, and it's a buzzword. Assuming breach is difficult. Theoretically, right? If someone downloaded a Trojan onto their laptop and they had 24 hours, you could assume breach for your entire environment if you don't have logs that say no. Should you assume the breach? I think that's a risk decision. I think that's a risk-based decision where you say, what does our security posture look like? What does our environment look like? What evidence do I have? What evidence do I not have? And what would be the risk of me saying there isn't a breach versus what is the risk of me saying there is a breach? Because there is a risk of running a full incident around something that you don't know if there's a breach or not, spending a ton of money, bringing people in, doing a whole incident response. There's resources spent on this. And let's say you find out that nothing actually happened and you caught it in the first place. That's cost. Mm-hmm. Is it as big as cost as maybe someone coming in and getting into your environment deploying ransomware? No. But that's why you have to have those defenses and those layers in depth, because you have to be able to detect it after your first sign. After you see this first threat, you have to be able to say, well, we know that they didn't laterally move because we would have seen it here or here or here. We know we didn't get domain admin because we would have seen it here. You just have to have those layers there to help you if you're going to assume breach. I would not recommend a company that invests all their security in preventing initial access to assume breach. Or maybe I should because they've got around the defenses. But once again, the issue comes in, you're going to spend a lot of money and you're going to have no win rate to track it down.
Yeah. I like the, I'm not saying the assume breach might fit in every scenario, but I like it. I like it in terms of when you set up something, because I've heard this excuse a lot of times. We're like, oh, should you really do X and Y and Z? And they're like, oh, it's only open on the inside, so it's fine. I mean, we've firewalled off everything to the internet. It's only, nothing's open, but yeah, everything's wide open on the inside because that's just us and we trust our employees. We don't have any inside threats. Like that's, well, you should sort of assume that someone will get in eventually, and when they do, they'll just jump on that service or server or whatever and just find it. So I think you should secure stuff from the inside as well, not just from the outside. And that's sort of what I mean about assume breach. It's like, yeah, make sure you secure stuff from internally as well.
I think from a definition standpoint, if we talk about assume breach as and assume at some point someone's going to breach your systems, I think that's a fine mentality to have, because it goes back to assuming defense in depth. People use assume breach in different ways. The way that I generally talk about it, the one I have the biggest issue with, is assuming, hey, we see some evidence of a threat actor, we should assume our systems are breached, which companies do a lot from the risk management standpoint, and I have issues with that. But that one, the overall, hey, assume that someone's going to be able to get in, absolutely. There's not a lot of companies out there that I know that would be able to defend against an APT who has been given, you have 5 years to do this and you have unlimited money. Go get access to the system and steal their data. I don't know of any company out there that could probably deal with that.
Yeah. They will get
including
eventually.
They'll get there. You have to have a way to isolate that information and know what you're doing.
Yeah. And I'm also big. I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of defense in depth and layer security, and like just slow attackers down. Just slow them down and make sure you have tools and detections in every stage that they go through, and that they have to take the time, and you can detect them in every single stage. And then like the likelihood that they should evade all of those steps it's not very high, I'd say. So
No,
that's
it's
yeah.
you're reducing the likelihood that they're going to be able to evade you, and that's really what you want. Because what you really don't want to have happen is you really don't want to get to the end of the kill chain and you get the impact. And you're like, holy crap, they did all this stuff, and then you go back and you still can't find out what they did.
No.
Which, from my experience, it happens. There is a lot of that happens. Hey, what did they do? Sometimes it's just not there. You can only do forensics on the stuff you have access to.
Yeah, that's where I love CM logs or CM services, not as a SOC, but as to use them as a forensic tool. That's so powerful.
Yep, that's what they're good for, I think.
Yeah. So my takes on you had way more like company wide ideas than I had about the biggest mistakes. I went straight into like small details and stuff. And what I was thinking about was just too widely spread sort of local admin approval. Just everyone having local admin. If everyone has local admin and there's no real sort of, if the culture is that you can do whatever you want with your local admin, you're gonna get in trouble, and we've seen that in the past. So I say sort of have as few local admins as you can, and if you need a local admin, you should have it time limited, so you can be a local admin for like 24 hours.
So I agree with you completely. I think it's a big deal. Local admins are really bad to have, especially given to just random people throughout the organization. I have been, there has been a number of times where I've been at companies and we've talked about removing local admin. And that is probably the only time that I've ever been in meetings where people scream at each other over things, because it is one of those big touchy subjects out there, because people are like, how can I do my job without local admin? I need to be able to install a software. How can I do this? And it's one of those places where security and usability really run up against one another. Yeah. And it's hard. I don't necessarily know if it's right for every company. I think in a perfect world, if we could get security right, it'd be great to remove local admin from everyone. I don't think it'll ever happen, though. I don't think in most orgs it'll ever be able to be done. The best I think people can do is kind of like what you said, have it time limited and track the people who have local admin versus who don't. Yeah,
agreed. And then another thing that we see, I want to say quite often, is the old, boring test your backups. Make sure you can actually restore from backups. Because we've seen that as well. You know, you get hit, you get ransomed, and you're like, yep, it's so. Well, I mean, it sucks, of course, but we have backups, so we're fine. We just restore them, and then they don't. Well, you can't restore them because they're corrupt or something, and then you're really fucked.
I once worked for a company, and there was a guy who said, "Why should we take full backups? We should just do incremental backups," which is a fantastic question if you don't know anything about backups, right? If you've never worked with backups, so just having a bunch of incremental backups is fine. But you have to, once you talk about it, you have to explain that just because you have incremental backups does not mean that all of your files are going to be able to be restored in an effective manner. And it also does not mean that you're going to be able to do DR solutions with this. You're basically hoping that your full image that you took an image of, 4 years ago and you've incrementally backed up is still going to function correctly. Yeah. And there's going to be no changes anywhere else that hasn't been found. And everything's just going to work perfectly over the thousands of different incremental backups that you've taken. And it's an interesting topic there, because people kind of just assume that the software or backup systems are just going to work like they've been sold. And I wouldn't trust a computer for a lot of things. I wouldn't trust a lot of software on computers for a lot of things, even though I have to, of course. But it's just, when it's something like that, you want to make sure that it works. I would agree with you completely.
Yeah. I think, so please make sure that you test your backups, that you can restore them. And if that's a DR scenario, that's perfect. Ricky B says, I'm still searching for a cool backup software to back up my personal data to my NAS. My current setup won't allow for proper restores, which is kind of sad. Yeah. Write it yourself, put it on GitHub, and see me using it too. Yeah. Please do that, and I'll use it as well. I will also test the restore function, so you can be
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it should just be an easy test restore. There you go. It doesn't have to tell you what to do. It just says restore works. There you go.
Yeah, just restore stuff. That's I need that button. Just that's it. um, so let's talk about the latest. While we don't have all the facts yet, let's talk about the latest nightmare that's been in the news as of sort of I think last night or yesterday, which is called print nightmare, uh, which sounds not so nice, right?
So, no, actually, print nightmare is the exact thing that it should be called. In fact, this is really the comeuppance of the entirety of the world not listening to IT people for quite some time. Printers have always been a nightmare, and this is just further evidence in my personal crusade against printers, personally. Um, no, it's actually really good. This is a pretty big RCE that apparently Microsoft doesn't know how to patch, which is terrifying because I have legitimately never had to say that in my entire career.
But they patched it, right? But
it didn't work.
yeah.
It's I can think, and Rudy's saying a printer itself is a nightmare. Yes, exactly.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
exactly what it is. This it would only be better if this was actually a faxing issue or a telephone issue on your service. But no, it's a big deal. I expect we're going to see a lot of stuff coming out of this. I expect, unless there's some good work done here soon, you're going to see kind of happening sort of thing. You're going to see the same exchange vulnerabilities being chained together. Not the exchange vulnerabilities, but this vulnerability being basically cobbled together with other ones, and you're going to see a lot of companies get popped. I do want to call out the fact that this was released onto a public GitHub somehow. I understand security researching is difficult at times, but I kind of expect a little better from people. Maybe not releasing big POCs onto public GitHubs should maybe be bare minimum.
Was it supposedly a mistake that they pushed it to GitHub or not?
It was, and they took it down several hours later. Yeah, it was a mistake. And, it's... I'm a big fan of OffSec. I think OffSec and Red Team do great things, and they're really important. And I think developing POCs and bugs is really important so that we know what to deal with. I do not think pushing out POCs like this is a good idea. I think that is probably one of the most irresponsible things I've seen in a long time. Because it's not exploited in the wild. No one even knew about this until they pushed it. And I am a little bit concerned because apparently Microsoft didn't know about this either. If they pushed out a patch and it didn't work.
So should we sort of explain just briefly what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you might do a better job at that because I've looked into it, but I haven't gone through the GitHub, and I think you've been doing stuff around it, trying to make sure that we can detect it, right?
Yeah, I haven't really tested the POC myself. I've just tried out some detection methods to actually see it if we see it live. But basically, the short version, the TLDR is privesc, so you can just escalate your privileges to system or domain admin if that's what you're targeting. So it's basically just a one-click fish to domain admin if you target them, which is pretty bad.
Which is really bad. You jump most of the kill chain just by doing that.
Yeah, and that's not very nice.
No, and to give more context around it, it was pushed. What was it? 2 nights ago, or was it? It was 2 days ago, I think.
Yeah, I heard about it yesterday, but I might have been.
Okay, so it might have been yesterday or late or early yesterday morning. Basically, a security research company out of Hong Kong accidentally, but I personally believe it was accidentally. Pushed a POC that is this exploit to a public GitHub on accident, supposedly, and they took it down several hours later.
But the internet never forgets, right?
Yeah, the internet does not forget on that stuff. And actually, I will say I'm kind of impressed that the bad actors were able to grab it from the security company. They were able to grab in a couple hours time. They were able to grab the whole POC. Because that's actually kind of impressive that they did that. They must follow all these security research firms just in case something like this happens. But it's a big deal, and we shot ourselves in the foot. I feel bad for them because they're obviously doing good work. They're trying to protect people, and unfortunately, in their work, they kind of shot themselves in the foot, and the rest of the security community doing it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and there was another group where I don't remember the name of them. They had a talk planned at Black Hat about this issue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they were gonna disclose this at Black Hat,
Oh, no.
and then yeah, this Chinese company or group or whatever just accidentally pushed it to GitHub this week. So
This is
yeah
great talk at Black Hat. How our POC, was actually someone else's POC and it got pushed to a public GitHub.
yeah
Congratulations! It's gonna be a great talk. I'm actually excited. I hope I get to see the video of that.
I want to see that. Hey Takeo, good to see you again. Thanks for the sub. It's 4 months of subs. That's awesome. I need to send stickers to you, Takeo. So just so you know, I got them.
Oh wait, we get stickers for subscribing.
Well, you get stickers for watching the show, I suppose. So,
Sweet. Okay. All right.
let me see. There we go. The Rudy as well. Awesome. A tier 2 sub. So let's see if this works for the. So that's the. It's actually mirrored, but that's the.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually a cool logo.
Serie Panda, and yeah, that's the. So it's basically the graffiti version of it. It's mirrored,
It's cool.
so yeah. Okay. It's pretty cool actually. I'm gonna have to send you some.
Yeah, I would appreciate that actually.
They're really cool. So these subs threw me off. Where were we? Nightmare,
We
yeah.
were basically talking about the fact that apparently this POC was going to be talked about at Black Hat, and now they can't. Now they can't talk about it, but they can talk about the fallout, which I think will be fun. That'll be a good talk.
Yeah. I wonder if Pry would agree with us if we were talking about should you release POCs or not. I think he would have a different opinion than we do.
I'm sure Pry is all for releasing public POCs that he can use in his engagements.
Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me.
Actually, the fun topic about this is back when the Exchange vulnerability got released back in February. There is a whole hullabaloo on InfoSec Twitter about what is OffSec's role in information security? Is developing new bugs actually something that's good or not? And I've always been on the firm stand that absolutely security through obscurity does not work. It's pointless and it can just get worse. No one told me that, 4 months later, someone would push something like this out there and no one has any idea how to patch it apparently or fix it. And we're just kind of waiting for the time bomb to go off. I think maybe we should have some standards.
Yeah. So do you think Microsoft's going to push an out of bounds patch for this, or wait until next patch Tuesday? Because it's 2 weeks to go.
They will absolutely push an out of bounds patch for this.
Yeah.
They tried to already and they failed. They're going to do it again. It's a big enough deal that I don't even, do they have a vulnerability score on it yet? Has that come out? I haven't
actually seen it. I know they upgraded it. They had it as it wasn't an RCE, a remote code execution to start with, but then as the POC was released, they changed it and upgraded it to an RCE.
Yep.
So yeah, they didn't really see this as important, or they didn't see this side of it. Perhaps I'm not sure, but yeah, they didn't see this one coming.
Anytime you get an RCE coming out there, they're going to push an out of bounds patch on this one, I think, because this is rising to exchange levels sort of thing, where you have a whole kill, you have a huge part of that kill chain done, one click, which is also not good. That's a big deal. And a lot of defenders, if they don't have good security posture and defense in depth, they're going to be kind of out in the cold here. I think it's this one. There's a lot of different stuff on there. You're using services, you're using DLLs that are getting dropped. I think there's a lot of. It's not what you would normally see from an exploit code. It's not what you'd normally see from a threat actor. As a SOC analyst, you're looking for a lot of PowerShell, you're looking for obfuscation, you're looking for the kind of the stuff that you'd expect to see. This one's a real live exploit that's pretty good that you would not usually see outside of 0 days sort of thing.
Yeah, 100% agree. So, not sure if it's a shameless plug or not, but TrueSec released a blog post about this, which explains this quite well. So if you want to if you're fed up with this, with us talking, and you want to read more, then yeah, there's a really good write up on that link by Fabio Vigiani at TrueSec. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see. I think we're going to see this being used in phishing. This choosing
I
point
think
seems
I
kind
think
of
we'll
cool.
get used to
Yeah.
phishing a lot. I think it's gonna be really unfortunate when someone accidentally clicks a phishing email and all of a sudden the entire environment's compromised because of a single one. But I mean, you can. Why not? If people get phished every day. Why not do that?
Yeah. And another thing is that, of course, even if let's say they push out a patch tomorrow, and then everyone that can patches their servers tomorrow, which is good. There's going to be so many servers that are not being patched for another year or
Yep.
2 or 3 years.
Yep.
So which are still going to live with this. Yeah, 'cause as
You're
we
going to be
know,
seeing.
yeah,
Yeah.
not everyone patches their servers.
Not everyone can, and not everyone can just do an emergency patch, right? Sometimes there's people where they need CRTs because if they patch their servers, it's going to take down production environments and stuff like that. And there's limits and there's customer input and all that stuff. It's really the best you can do right now is detect. I think if you're in one of those environments, is try to do detections, do detect, respond. But this is one of those times in security which it's kind of hard about this career field where there's not a lot you can do for the companies out there. You can't just patch tomorrow.
What you can do is you can actually disable the printer spooler. There's a PowerShell script that I retweeted just before the show. I haven't looked at it myself, but supposedly it's a PowerShell script, and please read it before you run it. It's a PowerShell script that disables your printable servers if you only have default printers. So if you're a printer server, you're gonna have more printers on you, and then you won't disable printers. But if you still have default printers on your server, you're probably not using printers, which means disabling them should be fine. So that might be a way around it.
Michael, even if you are using printers, even if this service is critical to your business, I fully support destroying the entire spooler service so that we can all figure out a new one to use in the meantime. Because printers are, as said before, an actual nightmare. Yes, exactly, Ricky. Print to PDF. That's all we need to do.
Save the trees.
Yep, save the trees. There you go. Yes, exactly. Now people can put in their email signature instead of saying, hey, please think about the environment before printing this email. They can now put in, due to recent security vulnerabilities, we will not be allowing any printing of this email. Please run this script. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm going to put a new line in my signature. If you can print this, you're probably hacked.
Yes, exactly. There you go. Precisely. I think you'd be doing a service to people, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. For some. Darudi says, but does a domain controller need the spooler service? No, exactly, it doesn't.
It's just you'd say that, Rudy, but I have been in environments where they absolutely do not need the spooler service, but by God, they're going to keep that enabled because for some reason, server hardening is a fun topic.
Yeah, and I would sort of bet on them that being enabled on a majority of servers. If you take a handful of servers,
almost absolutely,
DCs, even DCs.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, there's let me link that actually. Sorry for checking my phone on stream, but I'm gonna get that PowerShell stuff for you. And please don't run things from the internet without looking at it first. But so take that into consideration. But this is a tweet, I think. Yeah, that's it. So that one has the PowerShell script which disables it for you. Might be nice, I suppose, or just share it to someone that that's a possibility.
If you're a user in an environment and you have also the exploit POC, you could use that and then use that to run it across your environment so that no one else could use the same exploit. There you go.
Perfect.
All of us could be sysadmins today.
Your threat actor sysadmin. That's the worst sysadmin.
Exactly. It's if you're someone who's just who doesn't have domain admin access, you now know how you can get it, and you now know how you can protect your company. You can be the security department.
Yeah, Ricky, I like that. You just curl and just pipe it to bash. That's the proper way to sysadmin a Linux box. Just curl
there
it,
you go.
Pipe it to bash. That's it. You don't need to read scripts first. Just run it.
Reading is for people who who are not IT professionals. It's, I let someone else do that for me.
Overrated.
Otherwise, yeah, exactly. Reading's overrated. Exactly.
Yeah, running random stuff is underrated. That's
Yep, absolutely.
so. Speaking of that, I actually wanted to get into some underrated, overrated questions for you if you're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
So they have nothing to do with the things we've spoken about so far, but I want to hear
Okay.
your take on stuff. So yeah, it could be overrated or underrated or properly rated, and then in case someone watches this and haven't seen this before, it's it's your opinion. It's not just don't have to you don't have to swear by it. It's just your initial sort of reaction to it. So first off, deep fakes, overrated or
Well,
underrated?
uh, overrated at the current environment. It's going to be a bigger thing as facial recognition and stuff like that becomes a bigger deal. Um, there's a lot of like issues that could come up with it, but it takes time to create good deep fakes. As a random person, probably no one's going to create a deep fake of you unless they're like out to get you. And the technology is close, but it's not there yet. You can kind of generally tell a lot of times, unless people spend a lot of time getting into them. And from a practical perspective, the most you can generally do is someone's reputation a lot of times with them. We don't have, great facial recognition technology for like getting access to banks or things like that. So I'd definitely say overrated at this point in time.
That's interesting because my take on that is what I'm sort of scared of with deepfakes at the moment, at least, is impersonating someone else on the internet. Could be in a video call, conference, meeting somehow, because you're not seeing them in person. So you could sort of impersonate I could be you, or well, if we're more famous, at least we have more video of us. Well, maybe there's enough with video nowadays because we've been on itsecurity.
I mean, you could do that. You could do that, but I guess from the question is, what does that do from a practical standpoint, other than the fact that you're basically acting as someone else? I mean, you could steal information technically, but you're gonna have to make sure your voice sounds the same. You have to make sure that you're not acting weird. You get to a point where it becomes really hard to do that stuff. I don't know. I just don't see it. I just don't see it as a practical thing to do to cause people harm at this point.
What if we move outside of security then, outside of IT security, let's say? What if you, as a politician or as a leader of some state, you say something which causes a reaction, or maybe something gets leaked. Let's say something leaks from when Trump was president, and then he can just deny it. Wasn't me, deep fake. I mean, what you gonna do?
I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of the question there is, it's fake as there's such a thing as fake news, right?
Yeah.
It's the same concept. It's misinformation. Can the concept of deepfakes be used to create misinformation? Absolutely. And deepfakes could be used to also misinform people. But I don't think that's unique to deepfakes. I think there is absolutely zero checks on if someone out there said, hey, this person said this. If it goes viral, people are going to believe it. It's what happens on the internet. Or if someone famous does something, people are going to believe it. It's just the way that the internet works, and the way humans are conditioned is if you trust someone and they say something, you're going to believe it. And people who disagree with you are wrong because, for whatever reason, because they disagree with you. So I guess deepfakes are another tool in that arsenal, but I don't think that they are, a smoking gun, or like, oh, they're so amazing. They're so concerning. Because the problem is that misinformation ability is already there.
Yeah, true. So what about chat? What do you think? I'm gonna start asking chat as well for these topics. If you think they are deep fakes underrated or overrated? But so yeah, your initial take on this was deep fakes as in facial recognition duping, basically, right?
Yep, that was mine.
I didn't even think of that. I am doing it now, though. That's why I seem look so confused. I'm thinking. It's my thinking, my brainstorming phase.
Reasonable. No, I think as we get into the future, as facial recognition becomes a bigger deal, I think that's when you start worrying about that stuff, right? It's not, someone can use you or your likeness to be able to get access to stuff they shouldn't have. That's not good. That is really quite bad from a from an access standpoint. And if you can fake that well enough that you can fool systems, you're going to be able to get into people's bank accounts. And that's where you do start getting into, well, this is really underrated. But right now, we don't have that. It's not the world we live in. Best I could do is get access to someone's iPhone, which is a lot of work to get access to someone's iPhone, really.
Yeah. Yeah, because that naturally assumes that you have it in, you had a physical phone.
Yep.
Which is bad to start with. Well, yeah. Ricky B says it's underrated. I think they can lead up to a lot of damage. Not now maybe, but there are scenarios I can think of. You can manipulate elections, you can ruin someone's life, etc. Yeah. I think there was some case of some like soccer mom using deep fakes on some of her daughter's friends or something, which turned out was a hoax or something in the end.
Was that a hoax? I read the same thing you did. I'm kind of surprised it's a hoax. Okay.
Yeah, like it wasn't really a thing to start with. Yeah. I think I just read sort of the headline of that, the follow up. But yeah, I'm gonna have to read up on that.
I think deepfakes sound a lot scarier than they actually are, because they're a very cool topic. It's from a conceptual standpoint, it's really easy to see, hey, if you're pretending to be someone else and no one can verify it, what that could be really a big deal. But I think, Ricky, like I said before, it's those avenues are already there to create that misinformation to change elections. I can make a post to an internet forum claiming to be someone I'm not, and people will take it as gospel, apparently. So, it doesn't, I don't have to do any deep faking. I can just go make some posts and claim to be someone I'm not.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Right. Yeah, which is as dangerous in my opinion. Yes. Yeah, I think it is. Yes, the way I'm thinking about deepfakes is, in terms of impersonation, is for sort of, politicians, and they can because they can use it to their advantage. They can leak something intentionally and then get a reaction of some sort, and then say, "Oh, that was deep fake. It wasn't me." But then the reaction is, they can sort of
it's still there. Yeah,
play on that reaction. Yeah.
I mean, they can still do that anyway. They could absolutely do that now. They could just have someone else do it. They could burn someone else. That was not hard to do. If you're trying to do things like that, there's ways to do it now.
I think I'm overthinking this.
I mean, it's kind of like, I always go to is how likely something practical is it? And if something's not very practical, I generally say things are overrated if it's not very practical. It's a lot like having a pool in your backyard, which is fantastic to do if you have one, but they're a lot of work. And so everyone who doesn't have a pool thinks they're great to have, and people who have a pool are always like, "Oh my God, my pool's so much work." So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I get it. Right, next one then, which is good because Price isn't here. Bug bounties. Do you have an opinion on that? Are they overrated or underrated?
Price is going to watch this, and I'm probably going to get hacked over the next week. But basically, bug bounties, I think, are good. I think they're helpful. I think for a lot of companies, they don't do them right. I think bug bounties are great to know what you haven't done. It's great to increase visibility, and it's always helpful to be able to say, hey, we're going to let people try to get into us, and then we can patch the holes that they found. So I think from a rating standpoint, I think they're rated properly at this point. They're not the next coming. They're not the most important thing in security, but they're also, that if you build a security program and you have access to the internet, have a bug bounty program. It's a lot cheaper than getting popped. With that being said, most of the ways that I see people get initial access are not through exploiting public-facing servers and environments. I see it coming from phishing and stuff like that. And unfortunately, no company out there offers a bug bounty program for phishing their users. But if someone does, please let me know, because I will happily retire. That would be fantastic.
Imagine the amount of incoming phishing emails if it was a bug bounty where you can actually phish employees. And you get
like I said,
2,000 bug bounties.
It would be quite fun. I would love to see that. That would be. I get to use some of those, those noggins of all the phishing emails that I've seen in the past, and see, which ones can I get people to click on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're rated as they should be. but you can't rely on them to protect you from everything.
Yeah. So how paranoid are you with phishing emails?
You know, okay, one, I'm not a great person to ask about this technically because I'm in security, right? I'm in security. I do forensics in security.
Yeah.
How paranoid am I about phishing emails? I don't click on links in emails. I generally, if someone wants me to go somewhere, I'm generally just going to go to that link. Like if there's something from Amazon comes into my email, I'm going to go navigate to Amazon in my web browser and completely ignore the link. Environmentally, from a environment, I think phishing emails are incredibly dangerous to an environment and enterprise. But personally, I just don't click on links anymore. It's not worth my time a lot of times. If it's a confirmation email and things like that, yeah, I'll click on it. I've got a VM to click on emails that I'm maybe not sure about, that I will absolutely put some emails in, click on the link and see what happens. Someone sends me a link on Discord or someone sends me a link on Steam, I'm probably checking it out on my VM. So I'd say I'm probably pretty paranoid, but it's also, I've seen too many things happen as well. Phishing emails, I think, are definitely underrated even now because they're just super dangerous, and doing due diligence on them is a lot of work.
Yeah. So a lot of the phishing emails that I see, I would assume that you see and that we see in incidents, are really, really crap. I mean, they're written with poor English. They're obviously phishing emails, and if there's an attachment and you click on it, there's this, you gotta enable macros in Word, and it's obvious that it's a phishing. So why do you think it's so obvious? Because I have my theory. Why aren't they better, like more expertly crafted, let's say?
So I think there's a couple things. I think phishing emails are generally pretty low effort because the people who are sending out phishing emails, they don't need a ton of effort. It's not the ransomware groups who do this; it's initial access brokers, and it's kind of like the concept of if you have quantity is quality in enough quantity. Essentially, is if I send out enough phishing emails, I'm going to get people to click them. I'm going to get people to click on even terrible phishing emails. I guarantee you, I can get someone to click on a phishing email tomorrow that's just a link in an email, and someone's going to click on it. So they don't have to do. It's not hard. There's not a high barrier, and in the end, maybe you don't want everyone to click on a single phishing email. Maybe you'd like them to think, haha, I figured out all these really easy ones, and then you send a harder one, and that's when you get the other people who think that they've done their due diligence. I just don't think that they really need to be very good at them right now to get people to do that. It's kind of like the people who do the phone scams over the United States, which is, hey, buy some Apple gift cards, send it over to me because I'm from Microsoft and there's a virus on the computer. It's the same thing. They don't have to try very hard. There's not a lot of work that goes into it. And they're gonna find someone who's gonna believe them and send them some gift cards.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So what was that quote? Quantity in quality in quantity.
Quantity is the quality in enough quantity. That's yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I look at my dad jokes. That's the way I do it as well. I just throw enough of them out there, and they're good.
Yeah, exactly. Someone will laugh eventually.
Exactly. Yeah. So phishing emails. That's a really good take. I didn't sort of think of that the full way that you did, but it's sort of the same. I think one of the reasons might be that you don't want the more sophisticated people to click on it. You want the non-tech savvy people to actually get that email because they will click on it, and if they click on it and they open the attachment, they're going to enable macros as well. Like you only want the less tech savvy people to actually open the attachments.
I could see that. I think
maybe
though
not.
that
Maybe it doesn't make sense when I say it out loud. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because from that one, I would think like you do that. So theoretically, if you do that, if you made it a better one, more people are going to click on it no matter what, because you've already hit that low level. And I'm going to let the people who are not very tech savvy click on it. One of the things could be is, maybe you don't want the people to report this as a phishing email. If they're non-tech savvy, no one's going to report it. But even then, that still doesn't make sense because the people they're still going to get all the emails at the same place. So it's, it's not like it's not going to get reported. Honestly, yeah, I just think it is because low effort's easier and they can send out a lot more quantity if they don't put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, makes sense. So if you would, let's say you actually clicked on a phishing email, you got phished. What would be the reason that you clicked on that email?
Oh, okay. Actually, I have a great story about this. There was one day, this was probably a little early on in my career. It was probably 4 years ago. I'd just woken up and I get an email from PayPal saying, hey, there was a charge to your account. It looked pretty good. There wasn't, I didn't, at the time I just woken up, so I wasn't like looking at it like, is there some misspellings going on? I'm not looking at the link. I'm not even looking at the sender, but the sender said PayPal. They'd spoofed it pretty easily. They had the logo in there, and they had my name in it, which was a big one. They have my name or they had my email, one of the two, so they knew who they were sending it to. But the reason I clicked on it was because I was tired and I wasn't thinking. It was just like, oh crap, there's this stupid login to my PayPal account, and I have to go deal with this. So I click it, and I don't put in my password, thankfully, but I did click on the email, and it was very shameful, let me tell you. It was, thankfully, it was early on in my career. If I did that now, I would absolutely be fairly upset with myself. But a lot of it's exhaustion. You're just not doing the due diligence that you need to do.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that if there was any reason that I would get phished, it would be because I expected that email to come. Let's say, because I'm into running, so let's say I run a 10K today, and then tomorrow I get an email from that, which it's spoofed from the organizer, which like, hey, here's the results from last night's race. I might click on that actually, because I would sort of, it makes sense that email would come in. And I think it's the same reason people click on DHL stuff when it's close to Christmas and stuff, because they expect packages to come in.
Yep.
And if I would have fallen for a fish, that would probably be why, I think.
Well, Michael, thank you for letting me know how to socially engineer you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
This is going to be very helpful.
Yeah.
Very thankful. I'll let Brian know too.
That's also how I would approach if I had to spearfish someone. That's how I would do it. I'd send them an email with something they expected. Like if they went to some gallery or something one night, I'd be sending them an email from that gallery the next day or the same night, because they would click on it. Absolutely.
Yep. I go look at Facebook and you can find what people will click on generally. Yeah,
exactly. So phishing wasn't really on the overrated or underrated, but we like to go on tangents, right? Yeah. So this one might be quick or long. Let's see. But passion. Just passion.
Oh.
Do what you want with that word.
That's a hard one. Okay. Everyone talks about how in cybersecurity you need to be passionate about your job. You need to be passionate about cybersecurity and you need to enjoy it. And I think partially that's true. I wouldn't go on a podcast and talk to you if I wasn't passionate about concepts around cybersecurity, because I think it's an interesting puzzle. I think where passion turns into not good and where I think people lose sight of what passion actually is when they talk about doing, going to work 8 hours a day and spending another 6 hours doing cybersecurity on their own time as their hobby. There's a lot of people like that in cybersecurity, and fantastic for them. I'm happy for them. It's fantastic that they found a job and a hobby that's the same thing. If I could have a hobby that lets me if I could have a job that would let me sit outside and drink gin and tonics and throw a football around, absolutely, I would do that as my job too. No one's willing to pay me for that, though, unfortunately. Very weird. Very weird. But I think passion is overrated in the cybersecurity industry, because I think as soon as you get to a point, you'll burn yourself out. If you can be as passionate as much as you want about cybersecurity, it can feel like it's not even work or anything like that. But if you don't give yourself time to step back and de-stress and take some time away from it, and all you're doing is you're doing home labbing, you're doing TTFs, you're doing boxes, and you're working 8 hours a day, you're doing other parts of your life, you're maybe not working out, you're maybe not trying to live a healthy life. Too much passion can be a dangerous thing. You can burn yourself out, and you can you can lose an enjoyment. And if that's the only thing that's driving you is passion about cybersecurity, and maybe not because you enjoy other parts of that job, it's just cybersecurity is what I love. I love cybersecurity. I love IT. I love the technology around it. It can be a problem because people lose passions all the time. People lose interest in things. I used to be really interested in golf, and I'm not anymore. Although I'd like to be again, but it's like, if that's what's driving you, it can make things really difficult. But you should have passion for it. You should have passion for anything that you do. There's no point in doing something that you don't have any passion for, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. So the reason I'm in security is because I genuinely want to help people. That's why I'm doing this. And then I sort of bounce around between roles in security. I've done pen testing. I've done the general IT security generalist at a big company. Now I'm doing SOC stuff, some incident response, some forensics. So I'm probably gonna jump around doing a bit of everything, but it's always gonna be the underlying reason is because I really want to make things safer and help people. And that's the passion, and I don't think that passion will sort of burn out. But
Nope.
what I do, like the actual role I do, that's gonna burn out, and that's I need to switch that up from time to time.
And I agree with you completely. And that's where you see the difference is people talk about having passion for your work. You want to have the passion for the reason why you do that work.
That Rudy just wants all the data and logs. That's why he does it.
Yeah, see, exactly. And Rudy, I could actually see that as a passion because I too just wish I had every log ever. It would make things a lot easier sometimes.
Yeah. Imagine some central log server would use that. You have everything.
That's crazy talk. I've never heard of such a thing, Michael. Come on now. We gotta go back to reality.
No, I'm with that, Rudy. I want all the data, all the logs. Just give it to me. I don't want to pay for that license though, but I want the data.
No licensing either. No, just all the logs, please. And it can be just stored in like the Nether or wherever. Yeah. What I will say though is the cybersecurity community and the IT community, there's this big perception for people who are entering it that you have to be passionate. You have to spend 18 hours a day doing IT. You have to get your certs. You have to do all of this stuff. You have to home lab. You have to do all of these things. And I think it's a big barrier to people. People don't want to spend that amount of time, and maybe they shouldn't have to. I think, it was great 10 years ago when people were, when IT was kind of just growing up, and the people who got into IT were people who really cared about it and really thought it was interesting. And maybe things weren't as complex. I mean, things were obviously still as complex back then, but things were complex in a different way. I think having that as your barrier to entry is, do you really care about the IT and the tech stuff? I think that's harmful now to the industry because there's people who get put off by it. There's people who don't want to cybersecurity or IT because they think that their life is just going to be tech. That's all they're ever going to do.
I absolutely agree with you 100%. But we like to say that, and I usually say the same thing as you do. But let's say we interview for a position at a given role or something. And then they have the same qualifications, have the same experience, and then one of them is like just really passionate. He has his home lab and he likes to just go to conferences and everything. And the other one is like, nope. When it's like 5 o'clock, I turn off the computer and I don't think about security at all. We'd probably go with the passionate one, right?
You might, but I think then the question is that passionate one, is that person going to burn out? Is that person going to eventually have so much stress in their life because that's all that they've done and they've spent all their time home labbing and stuff? Are they going to be a culture fit? Are they going to be someone who's going to go do other things with the team? They're going to talk about other interests. Obviously, yes, and I'm playing devil's advocate here because what would happen is absolutely you hire the person who says, yeah, I love cybersecurity. All I want to do is cybersecurity, because you see the opportunity for growth there. And that's what you look at. But at the same time, if all the people that you hire are people who are passionate, all they want to do is grow in cybersecurity, you don't get a different perspective about it either. You don't have people who think, cybersecurity is cool, but I really like to see how it interacts with business. Or, cybersecurity is really cool, but I don't really care about the tech, but I sure do care about the processes. And I think it takes all kinds. I think you have to have a diversity of perspectives just because it makes things easier. You can have a group of people who are all really passionate about cybersecurity, but if they don't know the right way to do things because their passion is something in cybersecurity and they've focused on it, it's not going to be a great fit. And like I said, we need a lot more people in cybersecurity. I don't think it's very sustainable to say, hey, if you want to do this job, you have to do it. You have to live, breathe, and eat it. I think there has to be a balance somewhere, because otherwise people are going to leave. They're going to leave in 5-10 years, and they're going to say, you know what, cybersecurity is great, but all it is a bunch of people who really care about it. I don't care about it enough. I'm going to go find another job where I can just make as much money and I can help people out in different ways. And cybersecurity is going to lose a good contributor, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a risk actually. And I think you, me, everyone else in the field needs to be better at just downplaying this passion thing. I don't think you need to be extremely passionate to do a good job. I think you need to be really, really interested, but it doesn't have to go overboard. You don't have to do it just every waking hour. So you know that saying, right? Where it's, what is it like? If you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I saw some other meme which is just made fun of that. Was basically something, I'm paraphrasing, like, if you find a job you love, you'll work every waking second of your life, and you never know the like what's personal life or work or anything, and it will just burn you out. So yeah,
you'll never find anything else that you love. Exactly, that's exactly what it is. It's no, I completely agree with that, and I've talked to several friends. Some of them are on help. Some of them work at a help desk or they do support, and I say, hey, you'd be a great fit to move up in the IT field. And they're just like, I don't want to invest the time. And it's like, you've got all the skills, you don't have to invest any time. And they say, no, I'm worried because if I don't do that, I'm going to be competing with people who are investing all the time. I'm just not that technical. I just don't care about the technical thing stuff. And I hear that from multiple people, of friends who are, just kind of starting their IT careers, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to stick around a help desk, which is fine. It's their choice, but it's not because they love help desk or they're passionate about help desk. It's because they don't think that they're passionate enough about other parts of IT. Like you said, it's if you love what you do, great, but make sure that you have time for other things, and definitely don't discourage people just because they might not think this thing is as cool as you do.
Yeah, agreed. That's a really good segue into something which I'm going to do which is absolutely cringe and corny and everything, but I'm going to do some vlog thingy with like those videos which are titled like a day in the life of, and then something titled. I'm going to do one of those just to show that it's not just about. It's partly because I want to learn more. I want to get better at filming stuff. I've got some stuff coming in which should help me actually film more stuff like this, and I want to get better at editing and stuff. So that's part of the reason. And then I also wanted to just show that there's more things to do in life than just security. Even though, I am passionate about it. I do love it. It's not the only thing I do. Trust me. I got 2 kids at home, twins, which takes up like 99% of my energy every day in a positive way, mostly. Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
I mean, yeah. I think actually, as maybe cringe as it may be to do a day in the life as a healthy stock operator at TrueSec, actually, I think those videos are fantastic. They let you see kind of the other side of stuff, because otherwise all you're seeing is podcasts done by Mikael and Inside Security and blog posts that he's posting and stuff like that. So it's good to kind of see the person too.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean it's that's what I want to show. So I'm going to do that. Probably I've been thinking about doing it for a couple of months, I think. But then the funny thing is, I'm going to name it a day in the life of a level 3 SOC analyst, and then what gets in the way is actually the work as a level 3 SOC analyst. So I can't. There's no time to actually film stuff, which in itself is a video that I haven't really put it up, because that there is no video is actually the day in the life of a SOC analyst, because there's no time. So there
you go. That it could be your 5-second video or a 10-minute video which just says there is no time, goodbye.
Yeah. Hello, welcome to my escalation. Sorry, bye, and click, and that's the video.
There you go.
Yeah. Right, I got one last question for the overrated, underrated.
Okay.
And it's interesting to hear, because I asked this to my guest from Recorded Future, and he had a very strong opinion on this. So, hacktivists, Are hacktivists overrated or underrated?
So this is actually a philosophical and morality question, disguised as a cybersecurity question. Hacktivists are a fantastic concept. However, your opinion of what is a good cause and my opinion of what is a good cause are 100 different things.
Yep.
Now, we could probably all agree that there's certain things that are horrible out there that should never happen. And I support hacktivists in those instances. But I am deeply uncomfortable with the thought about, hey, we're just going to allow someone to have unilateral ability to go and pick and choose what causes they fight for and they hack around for. It's kind of like the Batman concept, where Batman's a superhero, absolutely, but he's above the law, and he chooses what he forces and what he doesn't. And it's almost an issue in the sense of, well, I'm going to go deface this website of, a terrible regime, right? And, it does terrible things. We could say that's good, but someone's opinion of what a terrible regime is and what isn't a terrible regime is also a different concept. And then also, how do these respond? What type of things does your actions cause? And I think when you're an individual without any sort of checks and balances, you don't have someone to be able to tell you, hey, this is okay, or hey, this isn't. I didn't see what the recorded features guy said, although I feel like he was probably fairly similar in how he answered that, or at least had somewhat of the same opinion.
So your take on that was more of a conceptual stance on what hacktivists are as a concept, right?
Yes.
And his take was more, are there hacktivists right now, and are they overrated or underrated, the people doing it? And he was like, there are no hacktivists. It's in the news, these anonymous things. He's like, there's no one doing hacktivist stuff. I mean,
No.
By no one, I mean, there's obviously someone, but there's nothing really. That's what he's take on
there
it.
are people. The Iranian cyber army could essentially be classified as hacktivists because they're just hacking on behalf of the Iranian government, and they're technically like a militia.
Yeah.
So, but no, I'd say they're from both conceptually and from a actual real life thing, because no one does it anymore. And honestly, when was the last time it actually happened? Was it like 2011, 2012? It's been a long time since anyone's ever gone out and done the hacktivist stuff, honestly. I haven't seen any websites taken down by Anonymous lately.
No, same here. I mean, I can't even remember when Anonymous, because that's, if you say hacktivist, like your mind, it naturally drifts towards Anonymous, right? That's what
absolutely
you
get. The guy Fox Mask is absolutely what I see when I think of a Anonymous or hacktivist.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anything by them for a long time, and so my take is overrated because they're not really doing anything. I don't see them anywhere ever, and he was like, yeah, there's no such thing basically as hacktivists at the moment. I'm like, wow, okay, that's interesting, which I agree with. So yeah, but that doesn't mean that it might not come up in the future. It might be, when something, might be eventually.
When something tips people off enough, it might actually happen. But it'll be interesting to see. It requires some special skills that maybe people don't want to put the time in.
Yeah. So jumping topics again, because I'm reading through my show notes, and I actually had something pasted in the very bottom of the show notes, which I wanted to have at the top of the show notes, which I forgot.
Sure.
So I just wanted to hear if you read about this iPhone Wi-Fi bug that can actually brick your Wi-Fi on your iPhone.
I did actually see that. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. So basically, if I'm not going to paste that in the chat, but if you name your Wi-Fi %P, %S, 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 %N, if that's the name of your SSID and you connect to it with an iPhone, your Wi-Fi breaks. You can never use Wi-Fi again on that phone, I think, unless they actually soft patch it. If they can, but yeah.
I think it's awesome. That's just so you know, I'm going to do this as an underrated and overrated. I think that's absolutely underrated in how cool it is. This brings me back to, I don't remember, there's an iPhone bug that was very similar to this, actually. Back in the day, if you change the date to a certain date or past a certain date, the entire phone was just destroyed because of the date. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world as well, because you have buffer overflowed, or you have injected something, and you've broken Apple's walled garden, and now your phone's destroyed. But you do get to show a cool POC. So
Yeah.
I fully support it.
I agree. And it's one of those. I want to say it's. I want to say harmless, but I'm not sure. It doesn't really do harm, but it sort of fucks up your phone. So I suppose it's not harmless, but it's really really fun. I so want to try this, but I don't have any phone to try it with.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll ask TrueSec if they'll let me break an iPhone for fun, to see if that'll work.
Yeah, please do.
No, like you said, it's a harmless. It's one of the harmless bugs I like seeing out there because it's cool, and maybe we'll get some TikTok videos of break your iPhone challenge out there, which would be fantastic. I think that would be a good compilation.
Yeah, or imagine if this turned into some form of like a QR code, just show up and just bounce.
There you go. That's a fantastic. You have now just helped the threat actors determine how they're going to deploy the new iPhone killer. Congratulations, Michael.
Yeah. I'm gonna give Michael Takeo a sticker. That's a deal. Absolutely a deal. So yeah, I'm almost out of stickers, but I'm gonna order a lot more now. So I'm gonna send them out. I need your address, Ben, as well. Not here on the stream, but you can give it off stream if you want to. If you want to give it here, that's fine. You're gonna get not swatted.
I would prefer not to have things delivered to my address. From even though your Twitch guests are fantastic people, I'm sure. I generally don't dox myself too frequently. But yeah, I'll absolutely do that. And then when I get my stickers, I'll bring them on the show and say, hey, look, I've got my Inside Security sticker. I'm pretty excited for it, actually.
So speaking of doxing, did you know that in Sweden you can? I mean, there's official databases where you can just search for people's address, phone number, date of birth, everything is just open.
I'm completely shocked because over here in the United States, if that was the case, it's a big deal here. That would be a big problem.
Yeah.
When we talk about doxing, right, it's really easy to find people's addresses and all that stuff. When you go into a podcast with your full name onto it, you kind of have to expect a little bit, but it's one of those things where in the United States, we have a very different opinion about privacy and information security than I think a lot of Europeans do because of that. You guys have stronger laws and regulations required around it, but we are much more touchy about the subject, which is kind of fun.
But then you also, I mean, your social security number is of course a secret, and here we don't really use that
secret.
But we don't really use it here in that much in terms of that. But yeah, it's more for identification only.
Yeah, I mean, and the social security number, unfortunately, with the number of hacks that have happened, my social security number has probably been linked all over the place, and I think most people's have at this point. That is one of the things that is quite unfortunate with how we have set up American society, is that very private number it's been linked pretty frequently.
But that's a similar fear that I have about biometrics and fingerprints and stuff. Because if that gets leaked, I mean, you're not going to change your fingerprints.
No.
So I mean, yeah. That's it. That's your fingerprints leaked online, and yeah.
Yeah, no, you're done. Biometrics are scary. I'm very wary about hey, do facial recognition. I mean, obviously I do it for my iPhone because that's all they do. But it's a very scary concept. It's immutable data, and it can cause you real problems. Yeah.
So what's your take on what's your take on services that you can just DNA test, send a sample of your DNA to some service, and then you get here's your heritage tree or what it's called and everything. That's pretty cool. But
I think they're really cool. I would absolutely do it, even though biometrics are terrifying. Yes, I would actually do it because biometrics, while terrifying, we live in a world where everyone's biometrics are leaked into their their ancestry.com DNA at this point, sort of thing. I don't know. It's kind of the quote how I learned to stop worrying and how I stopped worrying and learned to love the bomb. You kind of sometimes just kind of have to accept that even though these things they pose massive risks. Are you really going to shut yourself off from society because of those massive risks? Some people might. I still want to do cool things, even if it does end up biting me 15 years in the future because someone has my DNA strand and they're able to, authenticate as me. And then I'll look back, wow, I was dumb.
Yeah, and then what if you do that and then you die in 5 years and you didn't really get to experience that thing that you wanted to?
Exactly. Yep.
But yeah, that's the same sort of trade-off that I sort of take into consideration when it comes to security versus convenience. Like a password manager, like I store my passwords with LastPass.
Yep.
If LastPass gets hacked, I am absolutely
you're in trouble. Yes, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, but I choose that convenience over having, because I hate having a local key pass and stuff because I want it on my phone as well. So I choose that convenience over security. I made that decision. So yeah, that's
you accepted the risk. And
I did.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly how companies end up having ransomware happen. It's because they've accepted the risk.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, just so you know, it's the exact same thing for me. I accept the risk that I do things that for convenience or maybe for fun that may end up, causing me problems in the future. But, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah. The Rudy says, if you generate a list with every possible combination for the length of an SSN, every SSN is leaked, kind of. Yeah.
Correct. Actually, it technically would not be terribly difficult to probably brute force because you can actually get 5 out of the. I think you can get 5 of those numbers, or maybe at least 3 of them.
So
and
how
they
long
correspond.
are they?
They're. Hold on. They are 9 numbers. Hold on, I'm having to do it. Yeah, 9 numbers. So you can get, I think, at least 3 of them because they correspond to the day that the year and month you were born. And I think there's a way to get other parts of that as well. But yeah, so you can absolutely brute force someone's social security number. It's not a ton of permutations anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a similar. I'm doing air quotes here, but a similar leak of every single PIN code, every single 4-digit PIN code leaked. Yeah, I think that's
I think it's hilarious. I think it's fantastic. It is true. I might have to go into the dark web and start getting some upvotes for that.
Yeah. Ricky says I was just about to write that. Yeah, I've seen it before. I think it's really, really funny. So, is there any other topic, Ben, that you wanna bring up?
No, I think that's about it. I got to get going here actually in a second, but I appreciate you having me on, Michael. I really do. This was a lot of fun. I thought we had some good hot takes here.
Yeah, we did, and I love it when we don't really always agree on things either, or we can just take different stances just for the sake of it as well. I think that makes for some really good discussions.
Since we work for the same company, it's absolutely something I got to add to my HR notes of things to, reason why Michael is going to be in trouble sort of thing. But no, I agree with you completely. It's fun to have disagreements, especially in such technical topics as this. Yeah,
I love it, and I don't really have. I have no qualms about changing my opinions on a topic either. If I get facts that prove me wrong, I'll change. Like that's. Or if I learn something new or I get a different take on things, I'll change my view on stuff. I'm not really stuck on stuff, which is I think it's fun to discuss things. I always learn a lot.
I think my final thought and closing thought on this is in cybersecurity you learn there's a lot of gray and a lot of different things, and being able to change your opinion or have an open mind and hear what other people have to say even if they disagree with you is really helpful in this career field because people see things differently. Yeah,
absolutely. That's some good closing quotes. Thanks so much for being on again. That was really good. Time just flies when you're on. It's been like 2 hours now again.
Right? Yeah. No, this was great. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope to be back again sometime.
Yeah, you will. Absolutely. I'm gonna force you to be on again. So that's perfect.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there we go.
All right. Thanks to everyone in chat. The Rudy, Takeo, Kim Jackson, Ricky. And if anyone watches this and you want stickers, just DM me somewhere, join the Discord, ping me, and I'll send you stickers. I'll send you a bunch of them. I haven't seen any photo evidence of Ricky and the Rudy actually putting them on something, so I think they just sold them on somewhere. They put up
I
on
can see that.
Marquito for like a
Yep. They're selling inside security stickers that they created themselves. Absolutely.
yeah. Awesome. You have perfect. I'm gonna need some photos of that to show where you actually placed those stickers. All right. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be back next week again, and then this is same time again. So 9 p.m. CET. Right, Ben. Thanks so much. And I'll let you run off to whatever you want to do. Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you,
you guys.
guys. Thank you. Bye.
Inside security.